right, thank you everyone. Welcome to the April 4th, 2022 Grafton Board of Health meeting. As a preliminary matter, this is Karen Gwiazdowski-Govin, Chair of the Board of Health. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Dan Finn.
Dan Finn here.
Austin Magnet.
Austin Magnet present.
Jennifer Maynard.
Jen Maynard here.
And Bill Muller, I don't see on yet. Staff and anticipated speakers on the agenda. When I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Nancy Connors.
Nancy Connors here.
And Colleen Bolin.
Colleen Bolin here.
All right, and then I don't see Cherry yet or anyone from Village Dairy, but that's not until 6:45. Oh, and there's Bill. Welcome. Hello. We're just getting started with my beginning spiel, like usual.
There you go.
So I'd like to open the meeting. Can I get a motion to open the meeting?
This is Dan Finn. I make a motion to open this meeting.
This is Austin Magnet. I will second the motion to open the meeting.
All right, and then roll call vote, everyone.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnet, aye.
Bill Muller, aye.
Jen Maynard, aye.
Karen Gwiazdowski-Govin, aye. All right, good evening again, everyone. This open meeting of the Grafton Board of Health is being conducted remotely, consistent with the Act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. This Act includes now an additional extension until July 15th of 2022 of the remote meeting provisions of Governor Baker's March 12th, 2020 executive order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. In order to mitigate the transmission of the COVID-19 virus, the Act extends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. Further, all members of public bodies are allowed to participate remotely. The order, which you can find posted to the town's website at www.grafton-mass.gov, allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely as long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. There are no public hearings scheduled for this evening's meeting. Let's see. So, for this meeting, the Grafton Board of Health is convening by video conference via Zoom, as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note this meeting is being recorded and that some attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that other folks may be able to see you and that you take care not to screen share your computer because, as we all know, anything that you broadcast could be captured by said recording. Any supporting materials that have been provided to the members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless I note otherwise. Before we turn to the first item on the agenda, let me just cover a few basic ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. I will introduce any speakers on the agenda for a topic. After the speakers concluded their remarks, any board members can provide any comments, questions, any motions, etc. As always, please identify yourself by name when speaking. Please remember to mute your phone when you're not speaking, and then please remember to speak clearly in a way that will help generate accurate minutes. For any responses, please wait until I, the chair, yield the floor to you and state your name before speaking. And then any votes on any motions made during this meeting will be conducted by roll call vote. All right, with that being said, let's turn to the first agenda item, which is the Alliance updates. Colleen.
Hi, everybody. This is Colleen. I just have a couple quick updates and then certainly any questions that you have for me. First off, this is National Public Health Week. So I know Matt, our communications specialist, has been working to send out just information to the towns on things that they can put on their website or social media. I know he's been doing that for the city as well, but certainly want to recognize that it is National Public Health Week, and that extends not just to health department employees, but also Board of Health members certainly as well. So I want to acknowledge that. In addition to that, we have a new employee that just started, which is very excited. Her name is Jasa. She is the new public health nursing administrative support person. So today was her first day. She will be working closely with Amelia to help with a lot of the administrative functions within the nursing office. She also, though, is a CNA, so she can do certain things like blood pressure, taking blood pressure. So when Amelia comes into town next, she'll bring Jasa as well to introduce and also see if Jasa can help out doing some of the blood pressure clinics at the senior center and the housing authority. So this won't be something, we won't throw her in there without any introductions or orientation, but just know that, you know, she'll be making her rounds and being introduced to some new folks in the town. So we're excited to have her on board. It's not a permanent long-term position, but for right now, it's at least through the end of this fiscal year. So we're excited to have her on board. We also have been, we've posted and been collecting resumes for the Deputy Chief Public Health Nurse position. So that is Amelia's prior position. We have 5 candidates. So we're going through resumes now and hope to start the interview process for that as soon as next week or the week after. So looking to get that position filled as well sooner rather than later. And again, certainly once we have somebody on board, we'll make introductions for you and all of our Alliance communities. The last big thing I wanted to mention is that we've been working really hard, and I know, Karen, you talked to our consultant, Zach, on our business plan and strategic plan. So since we last spoke, he's done a lot of key informant interviews with a lot of town leadership and Board of Health chairs in each of the communities and in the city. He's also done 2 strategic planning sessions with staff. So one was a half day with all of our staff. The second one was a half day with some of our leadership team. Again, trying to flush out, you know, strengths, weaknesses, areas for improvement, and really looking at what were our previous goals, what was our original mission and vision, and where do we see ourselves over the next several years. So there's been a lot of progress with that. We hope to have something more concrete to share with everybody soon regarding the strategic plan as well as the business plan. So a lot more to come on that, but really great progress. I would say definitely by the May or June meeting, we'll have concrete documents. So we'll be able to circulate them to all of you to take a look at. So that's really exciting. We also in June, that's our deadline to apply for reaccreditation for FAB. So Zach as well with that is helping us make sure we have all of our documentation in place, we meet all of our deadlines, and we're able to submit for that on time. One last thing that I will share is the Regional Youth Health Survey. So that's been conducted in all of our Alliance communities, including in Grafton. We utilize UMass, the Prevention Resource Center, as a consultant to help us collate all of the data and analyze all the data. So that process is taking place as we speak right now. And then we will have reports to be able to provide, you know, town specific and then Alliance specific. So it will not be anything that has identifiable information for anybody that completed the survey. Certainly it will be broad data so that you could not trace back to an individual person, but we will have good data that we'll be able to share within the next coming months as well.
Good. Dan?
Any questions?
Dan?
Just quickly, is Jasa, Jasa, is that how you pronounce it, or spell her name?
I believe it's Jeysa.
Okay, in case we see it first, meet her. Yeah.
Yes, I believe it's Jeysa.
Any other questions? Dan?
Yep, this is Dan. I have one more question about, trying to think of the name of the company. Is it something Earth? But anyway, the former
Feedback. Earth.
Feedback Earth, the former Troiano site. Have you received complaints, or has the Alliance interacted with them lately that you know of?
I don't know. I can check with Julie. I know that she had been visiting them quite regularly, I think up to weekly or daily at one point. I don't know how often she is there now or what she's getting for complaints, but I can follow up with her and get right back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Dan,
Yes, Nancy? Yeah.
there were complaints almost daily, and Julie is up there almost daily.
Oh, wow. So if that's the case, I suspect we'll have to give her some reinforcements or dig a little deeper into the problems there, but,
Well, and some of it, it's, we'll call it a little tricky because the state we're not the permitting body.
yeah,
The state is. So, and last I knew, they were involved. But I'm sure they're not
Right.
involved on a day-to-day type basis consistently.
That's correct. That's correct. It's through Grafton BOH.
And I thought, don't quote me, because it has been some time since the original like major complaints came through, that after all was said and done, Feedback Earth could not be doing the processing of the soy, and there was something else related to it, until they had it all figured out and blessed by the state, the town side of the world, etc. Like air quality, all of that.
That's correct.
so again, Colleen, maybe Julie can just get back to us to where she's at with it, and so that we can explain to any citizens of Grafton that are complaining, and I'm assuming it's odor, that we're pursuing, whether it's with the state or directly with them, trying to rectify the situation or
Yes,
remediate.
absolutely. I can ask her to send an update to everybody.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions for the Alliance side of the world? All right, I'll take that as a no. Well, thank you, Colleen.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you joining us,
Sure.
giving an update. Let's see, it is, well, it's 6:44, so almost 6:45, which the next agenda item is related to the Village Dairy with their tobacco violation, which they were invited to attend this evening's meeting, which was an outcome of when the board last originally spoke about their violation, for the tobacco violation, and Nancy, coming out of that meeting, had sent them a letter saying what, obviously a copy of the actual violation and the form and everything, what they had violated, what the penalty was, the $300 fine, and then inviting them to this evening's meeting. So if the board is fine with it, I say maybe do we jump to the COVID topic, go through COVID topic, and then, we can continue. And if for some reason, I understand technical difficulties, et cetera, I'm assuming, Nancy, you didn't hear anything one way or the other.
No, I did not.
Dan?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to skip ahead in case the owner arrives. But Nancy, so we have not received and the fine. He has not paid the fine. Is that correct?
That's correct, as of
Okay.
4:30 today.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we can, if for some reason the owner or someone representing them shows up before we finish up this evening's topics, then I'm fine with us speaking with them. But I also don't want us just sitting here waiting, wondering where we have other topics. All right, so COVID-19 cases, vaccines, and mitigation efforts. As of April 1st, Grafton's been informed of a total of 3,133 confirmed positive COVID-19 cases since case tracking started back in early 2020. As we're all aware, right now, the case count is at a lower level than when we had that recent surge, which is a good thing, but that doesn't mean we're out of the woods. There's talks of the stealth version of Omicron making its way around again. And then I know I've heard of at least one version they're calling a Deltacron, which is a combination of Delta and Omicron characteristics that they're keeping an eye on. So currently not where we were when we were discussing having a mask mandate recently at the beginning of the year, et cetera. But as we've all said, as time's gone on, that doesn't mean we might not be at some point in the future in that same type of situation again, because none of us can predict the future. All that being said, obviously we continue as a board to strongly encourage residents to get vaccinated, get a booster if you're eligible for a booster, continue practicing precautions, whether it be mask wearing, social distancing, frequent hand washing, etc. Especially when you talk about the populations that are at higher risk than the general population, think the immunocompromised population, elderly, etc. Those individuals especially should continue to take those extra precautions. I know that there's still, I do see, when I've gone out to say Stop and Shop, etc., there's a lot less masks than back before the surge happened, but it's not that there's no masks either. So there's still some people who are wearing them outside of obviously healthcare facilities, etc. So just everyone needs to be, careful still. And as, this progresses, hopefully, we'll continue to stay at a lower level and we won't have to have discussions in the future about there's another surge, but obviously we can't say that won't ever happen because we're not going to be able to predict that in advance. For the latest information, since there's so much information out there now when it comes to vaccines and boosters and which population's eligible for what, including like now they're talking like the additional boosters, but only for certain populations, we strongly recommend visiting both the CDC's website, which has a whole host of information about all the different vaccines and who's eligible for what and when. And then also Mass DPH's site related to COVID has this very similar information that they have put together. And then just like I said, we're going to keep an eye as a board as this progresses. And if anything changes, then obviously we're ready and able to, we've had practice, unfortunately, at this point, with how best to address the situation. So any questions or comments from the board members? Colleen?
Karen, can I just add, we actually, this was the first week starting April 1st, we had cut down to just once a week for reporting. So it'll be once a week for now, and you'll get all of your data on Fridays,
Okay.
unless we start to see something that warrants us going back to more frequent reporting. But for right now, it'll just be that once a week.
Yeah, it dawned on Nancy and I when we were talking earlier. I'm like, did you get the case counts for today? Because I normally get my, notes put together for the meeting, and that's when it dawned on me. It's like, oh, that's right. This is the first weekly version of it. Hence my April 1st, everyone, instead of the April 4th data. So thank you. And thank you for the reminder.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry, I completely forgot. Is my topic over?
Well, no one showed up from Village Dairy
Okay.
as of yet. So we skipped over it, not knowing if anyone would, to give them a little bit more time in case they were running behind or were having technical difficulties. So no, we haven't gotten to it yet, other than we did mention that the fine has not been paid yet. But that's as far as we got. And then we all agreed to jump to the next topic while we waited.
Okay.
Anything else COVID related? All right. Well, the last actual topic on the agenda while we wait, see if anyone shows up from Village Dairy, is the July, August, and September meeting schedule. So we have May 2nd and June 6th. I'm just pulling up a calendar. July 4th is not going to work because it's a holiday. It just happens to be a Monday also. Do we want to do July 11th, which would be the next Monday possible?
That works for me.
Yep, I think so.
Oh, and FYI, I will likely, depending on COVID and work travel allotments, whether they'll let us, June 6th, if they're going to allow travel for work, I won't be here for the June 6th meeting. I don't know, I haven't booked any flights yet for work because I've been trying to hold off to see whether, so if, because we could still be virtual at that point. If my flight is early enough and I'm someplace that's logical for me to join the meeting, I could call in or, log on from my hotel for work, but I don't know. I could be on a plane. I don't know. And the way the flights have been over the past weekend, I don't really have a lot of faith that flights will be on time either. Dan?
Yeah, I think we might want to consider moving that to the 13th. I'm going to be on Block Island the week of the 5th through the 11th.
Right.
And I just know that reception there's like one place on one little table or whatever bench in front of the library. It's the one place you can actually get.
You stand out on a rock and hold your phone out
Yeah.
over the
So,
day.
I mean, we could wait until next meeting unless the third to make that decision, unless the 13th is okay with everybody. I don't know.
I'm fine with the 13th.
Yeah, because whatever work travel I have, it's for a conference, so they're not going to, it's either the company's going to allow me to go or they're not going to allow me to go.
Yeah.
So the conference is going to be the dates in June regardless, unless they cancel the whole thing. So the 13th wouldn't be an issue.
Okay. I don't think we need a motion for that, but it looks like everybody's in agreement. That's better.
All right, so we got June 13th now, July 11th. Let me pull back up my calendar because I shut it.
Probably August 8th.
That would be 4.
Yeah.
All right. And then we can't do the 5th of September because that's Labor Day, so the 12th. If that
Oh, works
works.
for me.
Yeah, looks good.
All right, so we have now May 2nd, June 13th, July 11th, August 8th, and September 12th. And obviously, if stuff comes up, we can always, just like with the June, we can always rearrange as long as it works, because I'd rather we shift around if we need to than run the risk of having a meeting and then having last minute no quorum or something for everyone. All right, just checking, make sure no one showed up. So, yeah, so no one from Village Dairy yet. Let's see, that was it for agenda items. If we want, we can cover old.
No,
Nancy?
sorry. I have no emails. I'm just checking from the Village Dairy.
Okay.
Nothing.
All right, Dan?
So if we're going to revisit that for now, what's the next step? And traditionally, I don't know, Colleen, what your experience is. I assume a registered letter with a fine already went there, but now do we have town council get involved, or we just have the police, Grafton Police deliver another notice?
My
of
first
fine?
question would be, how did you send the letter, Nancy?
Email,
For the fine?
via
too?
email. Yes.
This
So
is
perhaps-
Colleen. I think, Sherry, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in Worcester, we also send certified mail to just confirm that they received it. Is that right, Sherry?
Yes, I send a certified mail and a regular mail together. We don't do emails. And then in Worcester, what I do is once the 21 period is over, I give them a call to confirm if they are willing to pay. And then if they still have not paid or they do not want to pay, then I just go ahead and submit the documents of criminal complaint with the court. And then the court gives us a court hearing date.
So do you want to put them on for the May meeting? I'll send it out certified and regular mail.
I think that makes sense.
Dan?
And I just want to mention sort of for the record how, well, it's disappointing that we have not heard back voluntarily from these folks, but how important it is. I mean, as you probably know, I owned and managed a business for 25 years in South Grafton, and I'm very familiar with that particular neighborhood. And there are so many young families with children, adolescents. And those are the folks that we're trying to protect with these regulations. And it's just upsetting to me that these folks have not responded, at least acknowledging that they made a mistake or that they broke some rules, you know.
Agreed.
That's all. So, yeah, I think we should go ahead and have Sherry follow those procedures and bring it up at the next meeting. And with any luck, they will have responded and, in my mind, hopefully apologized for the concern and the consternation. But I guess we'll see what happens. But if everybody agrees, I think that's the route we should take.
And I also want to add, if on their application they have their residence address listed, so I usually send out the mails to their residence instead of sending it to the store,
Yep.
if that's an option.
Sure.
Jen, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just wondering, in addition to the fine that is required, is there any indication as to, you know, because I'm just mindful that they've actually received the same thing in the past and they haven't then subsequently adjusted what they're being fined for again. So is there any sort of expectation of doing it right away? And then we just circle back with your regular check-ins, Sherry, just so that they're actually adjusting it at the same time?
Yeah, so once they pay the fine and I know that they pay the fine, they have paid the fine, I would go do a follow-up inspection and see where they are at. And then I usually notify Nancy after my inspections.
So just to confirm because I know Nancy, you said you were going to send out via mail, but then Dan, you were talking about Sherry doing the certified mail and regular mail. I don't want duplicative efforts, obviously, or people thinking the other person's going to do it.
I'll do that, Kara.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. I agree. Definitely disappointing to not have a response or anything even along the lines of can't make it. Can we come to a different meeting? Something acknowledging it, let alone paying the fine.
Just a follow-up question. Did they pay the fine last time and didn't adjust the rate or whatever it was that we were fining them for? Or did they not pay it last time?
I think they did. It was a totally different issue that they got caught on the inspection for. And it's been 3.5 years almost now. I'm assuming they paid the fine because I don't remember anything coming of it that was major with courts or anything. So I'm going to assume they paid the fine 3.5 years ago for that one.
And it was a different thing.
And it was a different issue that they had at the time. Still a violation, just a different violation.
Got it. Thank you.
But same owners or owner?
I think if I remember correctly from the meeting when we first discussed this, it was the same owner.
That's right. And it just passed the 3-year.
Yeah, they were like 3 years and almost a month. since the last violation. All right. Well, sorry you came to the meeting, Cherry, for
Oh, that-
nothing in the grand scheme of things. I mean, you did come for something, obviously, and we totally appreciate it. But in terms of us not getting total resolution because they didn't show up. So more to come. All right, so old and new business. The only thing I thought of under old business is, Nancy, what's the status of the various steps that you had to work on coming out of the board when the vote happened to amend the tobacco regulations?
Those steps I got from, what's his name?
DJ?
TJ. I have to do those tomorrow first thing because Julie needs those also.
All right,
So nothing has been done with those yet.
all right.
I spent a lot of time on tough.
Dan?
Just one last thing in terms of sort of old business. I've reached out a couple of times to Tufts Veterinary School, to this particular professor and veterinarian who is interested in helping out with a rabies vaccination clinic, and she has not returned my call for a couple of weeks. So unless she does over the next week or so, because I think we were hoping to do something like that in April, but I think it's going to have to get postponed until next year. If she doesn't happen to get back to me, I'll keep you informed if she does.
Yeah, the only other thing I thought of is, and I know this already got posted on the website and everything, is tick season is here and has started. So just the reminder to folks that, you know, being that it's tick season has started, you know, take the precautions that you hear every year around, you know, if you're out and about in whether it be grassy, wooded areas, etc. When you get back in, make sure you're checking for ticks on yourself, your loved ones, your animals, because as we all know, they're not always obvious, especially when you start talking in like the hairline areas and where there are creases on the body and then in your animal's fur. And then obviously repellents, long pants, etc. So you'll probably hear us say that. And then we'll add on the whole mosquito prevention part once it becomes mosquito season at every single meeting, and send out, you know, updates, reminders, etc. as the months progress, as the season continues. So then mail and correspondence. I think there was one thing that I saw come across. Don't know if you sent this to everyone, Nancy, or not. From Cheryl Sabara from MAHB. There was a question that came through going to various local boards of health as to whether, I guess it sounds like, well, I'll just read it since it is mail. Austin, you get a reprieve. That from Cheryl Sabara, who's executive director and senior staff attorney, Mass Association of Health Boards. That was dated Wednesday, March 23rd. Subject line is black plastic disposable food containers. And the question was, I've been asked by a Board of Health member whether there are any municipalities that have adopted or are considering adopting a regulation prohibiting the use of black plastic disposable food containers. If you have such a regulation or are considering such a regulation, will you please let her know? And to my knowledge, we have not discussed that. And it wasn't anything that at least I had on the table for something for the board to discuss. I know when it came to the whole, it's like styrofoam containers, that was actually something brought to us by another group. And then we're the ones who oversee said regulation similar to the plastic bags and stuff. But I did want to not just bypass it, obviously, because Nancy needs to get back to her one way or the other. So we figured it was good where we had a meeting coming up just to bring it up, see if there's any interest in it with the board members. Doesn't mean, it's not like we have to necessarily jump on it immediately, but it could be something that we could look at even in the future. So I just wanted to open it up just to see. Dan?
Yeah, I'm not actually sure what the difference is except for the color between whether the black is a different type of styrofoam or if it's more of a cardboard. I don't know, but I guess we could get back and say we don't happen to have anything on our regulations.
I thought they were talking about the black plastic containers that are like reusable. They're much harder plastic.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
The tops
Yeah.
come off. The tops are typically clear.
Yeah, so I know enough to be dangerous from previous experience at work, that although everyone thinks that if it's plastic and it has one of the cute little recyclable symbols and numbers on it, that means it's definitely recyclable. That is not the case. And I know from research that darker color plastics, although it's not that they're not recyclable, there's not as big of a market for secondary use of the black plastics and the dark blues or darker green, for example. The biggest market when it comes to that secondary market for recycled plastic is your clear, your white, your light colored plastics, because that's what you can easily turn back into another white plastic bottle to put some pills in, for example, or something. So the darker colors just don't have as big of a secondary market, especially where we used to, as a country, export a lot of recycled or recyclable goods to foreign countries, and some of those foreign countries now are not accepting that anymore. So that was when some of these concerns started to crop up, because now they can't just sell it off to a foreign country and have them use it in recycling to make into something else. But that's all I know about why I'm assuming the question came up around the black plastic food containers that are used for takeout, because of my knowledge that the darker colors can be some issues when it comes to that secondary sales of it, and ability to find a place to use it.
I mean, they are plastic, so they're going to be around a long time. I mean, in the end, it's something we probably should get ahead of, and eventually. And there are much more eco-friendly alternatives now, being cardboard and those even waxed cardboard, or those
Yeah,
easily biodegradable cornstarch plastics and stuff like that.
as long as there's not PFAS coating.
Yeah, seriously.
Because then that's its whole other issue that's out there now, is the PFAS coating on some of those.
Yeah.
Postable. Chipotle got into big trouble with that, with the PFAS coating on because it's on one hand a great substance to help with the food not leaking, because if you don't want to use plastic, you use those cardboard, biodegradables, etc. But if it's not made right and it doesn't have an appropriate coating, then everything just leaks and soaks right through it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I would imagine that's something restaurants might need a lot of education on, because I had no idea any of those things that you all just talked about. So that's probably, one, I have no idea what all the restaurants use in Grafton. I mean, I see a variety, when you go out, but also definitely some education if we choose to take on something like that.
Yeah, because if we start chopping away at all the different options,
What do we have left?
if you're like, you can't use white styrofoam, now you can't use, say,
Right.
black or dark colored plastic containers, and then it's like, and don't use the reusable or the biodegradable, compostable, etc. stuff that has PFAS on it, which the average person can have no clue how to know if it's got PFAS or not.
Right.
And the restaurants aren't going to know either. It would have to be like certified as such, and you hope, because there's not a certification out there yet, I can tell you that much. You hope that whoever you're buying it from as a supplier isn't lying, and saying it doesn't have PFAS. And so, yeah, it's a tricky place to be right now. Because yeah, you will run out of options.
Well, I think the restaurants struggled a lot. I don't know if it's any better, but with, as you said earlier, with shipping and stuff, just getting to-go containers at all.
Yeah.
Throughout the pandemic, I don't know if it's any better, and I'm certain that there's additional costs for them as well. So I think it's something great to look at, but I think I have more questions than answers at this point.
Seriously.
All right. So Nancy, if you can let her know that nothing at this time regarding that.
You're right.
This is Austin. There was also an email that came through today about the cease and desist order for the correction on the tobacco letter that goes out. It was kind of asking the Board of Health if we want to consider any sort of suspension along with the fines. It's not anything we need to talk about now, but I just didn't know if we were considering adding something like that. Maybe something to talk about for the next meeting, if you guys are interested.
Yeah, I don't think many of us got a chance to actually read
I
that.
didn't even know there was an email. I've been in meetings up until like 5 minutes before this.
Right.
To the point where I was
So,
getting concerned that I wasn't going to make it.
I think we'll have to table it till next month.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all we had on the agenda.
This is Dan. I'd like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
All right, this is Austin. I will second that motion to adjourn the meeting.
All right, roll call vote.
Dan Finn, aye.
Austin Magnan, aye.
Bill Muller, aye.
Jen Maynard, aye.
Karen Gwiazdowski, Govan, aye. All right, thank you, everyone.